Mac, here we are at the Keep the Blaze Alive first meetup.
Yep.
Raw meetup.
Raw.
Here in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And
beautiful North Kakalaki.
We're going to do a podcast today. We have a special guest. We're going to tell you about that in just a second. But first of all, if you hear people in the background, that's because we're going live. This is the first live podcast.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons to that, right? So the pro is it's cool.
Yeah.
The con is
loud.
See, we could edit all this stuff. I was explaining it to Joe,
but I
we
can't edit
that. We can't edit. Like if we say something goofy here,
yeah, I can't edit.
Still gonna hear.
I can't edit Jeremy's mouth.
No, Jeremy hears me say something goofy, he can't like Control Alt Delete and delete that.
We're gonna pick.
It's still gonna be goofy. Yeah. We could, edit here.
Yeah,
for later on.
Bourbon conversations going on.
Yep.
Steve be over there talking about fishing.
Yep.
Right
on.
So yeah, it's a live environment. So this is our first meetup for the Keep the Blaze Alive coaching squad, and some awesome people came out from our Tier 1 group.
Yep.
And we did started this morning, round about noon, and we just have to make this note for the record because you guys weren't here to experience it. But Rebecca McNamara, Pat's better half, did
2/3, bro.
Just a phenomenal job of setting up the clubhouse that we're in. I was blown away when I came in.
She churched it up large, man.
Dude, there was centerpieces which she made. There was tablecloths and the food, and I looked, and there's a banner on the wall that says "Welcome Squad members." I'm walking by this thing thinking it's just part of the clubhouse.
Part of the.
And Matt goes, "Dude, look."
Yeah.
I'm like, you got a banner made?
Look at those mason jars. Those are dogwoods and azaleas. So North Carolina plants,
Yeah.
that just bloomed. And she went out into the woods and freaking hacked those things up.
Oh my God. So and food catered, and we got a couple of mini kegs.
Yep.
So that's the kind of raw, so we call it the raw meetup. And so got a couple more days here in North Carolina, Saturday and Sunday. These Tier 1 members will get out of the teaching didactic mode of listening to somebody just speak, and they'll get to work with Mac, which will still be instruction, but it will be definitely a physical encounter in the Sentinel.
Yeah, man.
Right. So
Sentinel.
But one of the squad members that came out is one of the original squad members, who is the one squad member that all of the other squad members keeps telling us we need to have on the podcast.
Yep.
And that is Dr. Trevor Wilkins, who's here with us today,
baby.
brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. That's what better honor than to have your peers.
Yeah. Exactly. Let me make sure I got you.
Yep.
Go closer to the mic. I don't know if I can even hear you, man.
Uh-oh.
I could hear him.
I can hear me.
Yeah. Keep going.
Which is awkward.
There it is. Boom. You're good now.
Yeah.
Lima Charlie, bro.
The squad has recommended you repeatedly because they've gotten so much out of what you've done and the contribution that you've made, but you have been tearing it up on social media yourself. Now, when we say Dr. Wilkins, that's not just fanfare. He is a doctor.
It's real. I paid for it.
He got the degree.
It's real.
It's got the piece of paper.
Yep.
Do me a favor, real quick, just encapsulate how you started professionally in your law enforcement career and then your doctorate.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a wild ride. Got out of college, failed out of college after 2 years. I went to a college in Texas, learned that I liked Lone Star beer and pretty blonde Texas girls more than I liked going to class. So eventually they said, "You're not fit for this." So I joined law enforcement. It had been a dream of mine for a long time. I had already kind of dabbled in police dispatching and in paramedicine, working in EMS for a while and enjoyed that, but law enforcement really felt like a calling for me. So I turned 21, got hired by the first place that I applied. I figured that was a good sign and did that. So I moved a couple of times with family, but ended up at a state agency. Did 15 years of law enforcement altogether, all in uniform law enforcement, never got off the road by choice. And, after a while, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but after a while, that went very badly for me very quickly.
Right.
Because of some traumatic things that had happened, some things that I didn't understand was going on in my head. Let that get to me, some things I had to learn about later. And eventually, I lost that job. You know, I was terminated. So I lost that job. I thought, well, what's happened to me has to do with the job, so I'll apply for a pension. That's only fair. I feel like that 15 years I put some time in, and they denied it 3 times. So there I was, with 15 years of skills that I didn't know what to do with, no income, and was a pretty bad place mentally. I'd gone to a couple people that offered, said they would help, and they did not. They're good people, but they just didn't understand me. And eventually that turned into my boneheadedness and stubbornness of, well, I'm going to go figure this out for myself. Went from no college degree to PhD about as quickly as I could, really in interest of figuring out what the heck was wrong with me.
Right.
And then it became a pretty cool career. So now I have a couple of things going on, but all in all, I'm a licensed mental health practitioner. Based right now in Kentucky, and again, have a few other things going on, but I get to work primarily with trauma, anger, depression, anxiety, high stress careers. The people that I find are a lot like me, you know, that we're attracted to type A personality, to dealing with the same thoughts and some of the same experiences that I had. And what I found over the years was tens of thousands of people are going through the same thing. Yeah. So now I get that's what I do now. So yeah, it became Dr. Wilkins. I call the old me Angry Trevor and the new me Dr. Trevor.
Yeah. And he's Angry Viking Therapist on YouTube. So that's awesome. So we're going to talk about proactive mental health today, but this podcast is brought to you as always by who, Mac?
Taconic Distillery, best bourbon out there.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. Also, Invader Coffee, our buddy Wes, Rogue American Apparel. His other business is Invader Coffee. It's spectacular. And by Kill Cliff. Kill the Quit.
Yeah, we're thankful for our show sponsors. Again, thank you everybody for always tuning into this podcast, making it what it is. Another very cool thing happened today. We showed a premiere of something which we'll tell you guys more about as time goes on, but we're about to take things to another level in relation to the Pat Mac brand. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Again, we're out here for the raw meetup for the Keep the Blaze Alive coaching squad, which is something I encourage everyone to join. So if you are listening, be sure to write this down. If you have a pen around you, a keyboard, patreon.com/coaching squad, and learn more about how you can work a lot closer with Pat Mac and discover what we've discovered.
Yeah, man.
Because we got about 25 people or so
here from all over the country.
And in the squad as of now, there's like 570.
Yep.
So there's a lot of people who would love to be here, but we had to get started with something that was manageable. And of course, these are just amazing people, so we're thrilled to have it. But anyway, Doc Wilkins came out. He spoke for us just before the podcast, so we're definitely getting our squeeze out of Doc Wilkins. But proactive mental health, and this is why this is important. You know, in the squad, there is law enforcement. In the squad, there's ex-military. And things like PTSD, concussion, etc., traumatic things, everything is being done after the fact, right? It's therapy and things after the fact. But I think it's a lot of, you were familiar with the verse that it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. Just things add up over time, little things. And what that does is creates little traumas. And what people don't realize is that they don't make any preparation ahead of time to be mentally strong. So for example, Doc, if you had to go back and, go back into law enforcement again, your whole mental, you probably would have a different mental approach to going into it as you did, how you originally started.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and how I figured that out even after doing mental health for a little while was I was and can still be that traditional therapist that's kind of helping on the back end. People are coming because they've hit rock bottom or they've, started to realize that some of these symptoms are affecting their daily life. So I do that, and that is where I started at. That's my bread and butter. That's where kind of every therapist, no matter where they end up at, starts at. And initially what I started to see was I would have a waiting list for my office, which I'm more than thankful for. I have a waiting list. My therapists that are employed by me have a waiting list, and I'm absolutely thankful for that. But it also gave me some concern that I couldn't help people fast enough. There were still people waiting, and it wasn't a long waiting list, rather, but it still bothered me. So I thought there's got to be a way to help in more than just sitting in this chair on the back end, helping people through trauma, through depression, through anxiety, through anger, whatever they're dealing with. There's got to be a way to be more proactive about this. So really, the whole mindset idea and changing your mindset was born out of that. But once I started doing it is when I started seeing, man, this is even bigger than the therapy. This is even bigger than just spreading the word. This is even bigger than get rid of that list. This is being proactive. And what I thought was going to be just better reactive, this was proactive. And that's when I started to realize how important changing mindset was. And we hear mindset, we hear that word all the time. Mindset, change your mindset. It's become a real popular term now. But it wasn't until I figured out what that really means and how that can affect your daily outcome, how it changes your daily outcome, how it changes your symptoms, if you want to call them, how it just changes your mental health. That mindset is everything. Everything. And so that's what kind of caused me to dig further into that, be more interested in that. I'm always trying to learn and grow my craft. And so that's how I figured out that this preventative area, there's things you can never be ready for. There's things that your brain is not designed to understand, things that most people call trauma. That's where that limbic system, that fight or flight part of the brain kicks in. You're not meant for that. But it's going to happen. For some, it happens more than others. Most civilians, everyday people, see 1.5 to 2 critical events in their life. A law enforcement officer in 27 years sees 750.
Jeez Louise, bro.
Yeah. So it's not the thing. It's not the trauma. It's not the event. Yeah, that makes a difference. I saw the pattern change when I had that. But it was the pattern that got me. It wasn't the thing. It wasn't the event. The event was hard. I've seen lots of hard events. But it was the pattern that changed that I wasn't ready for, that changed everything. And had I had, going back to the question of doing it differently, had I had a different mindset going in, I don't know that I'd have been fake happy or, thought everything was great. But I definitely would have probably not transgressed to what I was. I do believe that.
One of my favorite specimens for this particular topic is the guy sitting to my left.
Specimen.
Because he's been around the world, man. And I mean that more than just geographically. He's been around. He's been through a lot just himself, even growing up. He had a lot of things to overcome. Mac, what is your basic, because you and I have had this conversation, dude. I've asked you, did you go through the same thing these people did or whatever? And you're straight up. You're like, no, I didn't.
Nope. And also how I dealt with it was completely different. How I recognized that all that stuff was completely different. And my proactive mental health now is completely different than most people's. Mine now is, I don't give a shit. I really don't sweat the small stuff anymore. I could really give a crap because I've been through ebbs and flows, the ebbs and flows of life like most people have. And my ebbs were deep, dark, rock bottom. From when I was a kid, they were horrible. I was able to come out of that. And then, through failures and successes in the military, through many injuries, through really bad, horrible relationships, through trying to get custody of my kids for 7 freaking years, through years of depression. Anymore, I'm like, you know what? I do not sweat the small stuff. And you know what? I'm probably going off the beaten path here, but one of the things I'm doing now with the proactive, and I didn't even know it had a name, is since I got custody of the kids last year, I'm doing that with them. Because kids have been affected so deeply by this lockdown. Their teenage years have been robbed from them. And so they're traumatized in a completely different way I think I was telling you the story about Cyan when I first got custody of her. She knocked over my telescope. I just bought this thing. She knocked it over, and boom, it hits the ground, and she's with her brother and two friends of theirs. And I could see the trauma, the trepidation that I was going to blow a gasket. And she was distraught, man. She was crying. I said, I could really give a crap.
Right.
Number one, I could probably fix this. Number two, I don't worry about this stuff. This is a replaceable item. I worry about big things with you guys, like ethical, moral issues, stuff like that. I'm not going to worry about you. We are allowed to goof shit up. We are allowed.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. Just please don't make it a recurring theme. That's all. But one other point I wanted to make, because I was thinking about this, and when you were talking up there, when it comes to ebbs and flows, I do a lot of talks and a lot of podcasts, and I talk about my failures and injuries and helo crashes and toe jumper and failures. I could joke and make all that shit really, really funny. But what I can't make funny is when I was going through that anger depression state. I can't make fun of that. I talk about it because I think it could help people out. But for the life of me, I can't find any humor in it. I would love to make that anecdotal funny, but there's no possible way for me to do that.
Now, did you ever imagine that you could feel that way?
Feel
as that dark? That
nope. But the thing is, it came on slow with me,
right.
And it started with the anger. I was angry because it was a bad relationship, and I really have only touched on it a little bit, like in our squad conversations and on podcasts. But it went on for years, and I was partnered with a person who had a mental health issue, so legit bipolar, but not taking the meds. The way, because there's chemistry here. You have to take the chemistry the right way. So abusing the meds, abusing alcohol. So this person became just evil, delusional and paranoid. And everything that I was doing was to undermine what she was doing. Everything. And I wasn't doing enough. I was working myself into the earth. I would come home to nothing but strife, just nothing but, and it was nonstop. It went on for years and years and years. And I mean, there was a point where I was just like, well, this is my life. Yeah. There was a point where I said, yep, I'm just going to accept it. And I'm just going to be dark and miserable for the rest of my freaking life. And will I survive it? I don't know.
And that was just yesterday.
Yeah. And today I'm rocking and rolling, baby.
He just got over that after listening to Doc Wilkins talk.
Right. Yep.
That's it.
All better.
So that's why we had Doc Wilkins on, because he works miracles.
Yep.
So I'm going to need your insurance card.
That's
right on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the type A guys, type A gals, strong people, which of course are drawn to, things like this podcast. We're willing to be dark. We're willing to be miserable because we think it's the tough and right thing to do.
Yeah,
right. I'll just take it on. I'll just be miserable. I'll just be, I guess this is life now. To a lot of people, that'd be very foreign. And I think to a lot of people that seek out very traditional therapy, that would be very foreign. Yeah. But we were, a lot of the words that you use is exactly how I would describe that very dark path of mine before I started to figure out how to get better. Was, well, I guess I'm just the angry a-hole. Yep. I guess I'll be the a-hole. That's okay. I'll be the a-hole. Yeah. It's good.
Just you capitulate to it. You're subservient to that lifestyle. It's like, this is who I am. I hate who I am, but I like being angry and sad, and
Yeah, and I'm strong enough. I'm strong enough to pull this off.
Yeah.
Where I think some other people may not. And the anger. I think a lot of the times it almost always starts with anger because, in my opinion, we know what vices are. Drinking is a vice. Yep. Gambling is a vice. Right. Infidelity can be a vice. Drugs are a vice. We understand those. And so I stayed away from them for the most part. But my vice was anger.
Yep.
I'm really good at it. And the reason it's a vice is because vices are our willingness to give up tomorrow's happiness for today's immediate comfort.
Yeah, right on.
Go to the
Yeah.
alcohol part. If I drink too much, I know that there's consequences tomorrow. Maybe mine, maybe a hangover, tired, dehydrated. Could be lost a job. Could be my wife's mad. Could be my kids are scared. Could be I did something wrong. But I'm willing to ignore tomorrow's consequences because I think it's what I need right now. I have to get better. I have to get rid of these demons. I have to calm down. I have to go to sleep. Whatever it is people use it for. I think anger's the same. It feels like a fulfilling thing.
Yep.
I know that if I lose it, if I get so angry I lose it, that tomorrow I've created drama in my family, maybe for the last time. Maybe they're done with me. Or I've lost my job, or I've, at a minimum, made myself feel this big, over something minor. And because I exploded, but I have to have this right now. I have to have this anger right now because I think it's going to fix something. So it's a vice. I think it starts a lot that way, is the anger.
Yep. I refuse anymore. Even like when I got into a relationship with Rebecca, I was so happy because it was a local LEO who saved my life. The cops have been to my house several times because my ex was calling on me because I was bugging the house. She'd have all the plates from the electrical sockets taken off and showing her how I'm bugging the house or how I'm operating the TV from Texas through my cell phone, and I'm disrupting the internet through my cell phone, and how I have a girlfriend living in her closet. So they've been to my house several times, and after years, one of them called me on the telephone. I just saw Pinehurst PD, so I answer it, and he says, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" So I go home. I'm in town, and he's the one who said, because he was a seasoned cop. He'd probably been on the force for 20 years. And he explained to me, he says, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, "Hey, I know you were a tier 1 guy. I know you think you could handle this, but you cannot. You cannot handle this. At some point, you are going to implode or detonate, one or the other. It's going to happen." He says, "You need to take radical steps. Step number 1, you need to move out of this toxic environment. The kids will understand. They will forgive you. It's kids are resilient," because I was staying in it for them. But that was the first time that anybody ever recognized what was happening to me, because I was denying it. I was faking it on the outside. Pat Mac, get some blaze ops, blah. And I broke down like a freaking baby. I didn't know I was capable of doing that, but I broke down in freaking tears right in front of him. I didn't embrace him or anything. I just shoulders slumped, head down, and tears flowing out of my freaking eyeballs. And to this day, every once in a while, I see that guy, Tom. I won't say his last name, but Tom saved he saved my life. And I moved out that day.
Now, of course, Tom's on his 7th marriage, but we're not going to talk about that.
20
Well,
years
Tom, the thing is, Tom had a similar scenario.
Yeah, he understood.
Yep, he understood. And I think that's good what you're doing because you understand, because you've had to deal with stuff. So a lot of guys, counselors and shrinks and that kind of thing, a lot of them haven't been through. They've been through the school.
Sure.
But they haven't been through, incidences in their life that have scarred their hard drive. So I think if you could, so a lot of times I do that now. People call me up all the time or write messages to me because they know I can relate. And sometimes I'm empathetic. Other times it's hard love. I'm like, bro, you have nothing to fucking bitch about. I just read your scenario on this long ass email. Suck it up, buttercup. Yep. Put a rubber band around your neck and snap the fuck out of it, because you have a family who supports you. You have good kids. I read all that. You just wrote it in your email. Yeah, go out for a freaking run. Yeah. Lift some weights, bro. You'll feel better.
That's what you did.
Yeah, that was my first step in getting out of my bad rut, because I was in a deep, deep hole. And it was an epiphany moment. And I remember saying these words to myself, because my ex, she said, the day before, I'm kind of smashed and I'm working on equipment. I'm in my garage. It's 3 p.m. and I'm drunk. And she says, "You are an old, pathetic loser who's not growing old gracefully." And I said nothing. But it was that night before I went to bed, I said, it pissed me off, because it resonated.
Yeah.
And I said, I will not be defeated by this person. This person is defeating me. This toxic environment is defeating me. I will not be defeated. I am in this hole, but I am not buried. I've been planted. And I put out my running shoes that night, and I had a good day the next day. I needed that one good day, that jump start, just a rebluing, rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really good day. And the very next day is when that cop showed up.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So everything kind of fell into place. But the other thing that I empathize with people, but then again, I had to do this shit on my own. I didn't have a counselor. I did have that cop, but I had nobody to talk to about it. So I was able to do it on my own, but it was just will,
Yeah.
It was just freaking will. I had to remember who the hell I was, and what I was put on this planet to be. But that was 2013.
Wow, it's not that long ago.
Nope.
I thought it was, like I said, yesterday.
Yep. But the thing is, that there were a series of events 5 years prior to that, were just horrible. Yeah.
Well, what's remarkable about this, and I want you to comment on it, is, that type of situation is very dire. That's bad. That's bleak. That's again, he was acquiescing to it. It's inescapable. For the kid's sake, he's got to accept it. But then the process of beginning it wasn't that hard. In other words, all of the resources that he needed to start the healing process were already inside him. Right. He didn't need it from somewhere else.
That's the mindset part, right? I would argue, I wasn't in the military. I was in law enforcement. I certainly have never been on, the type of training and missions you've been on. But I would argue that that's what sets you up for success.
Right.
Because you have gratitude for what you've done, right? You have gratitude for what you've come through, what you've been able to accomplish. And a lot of times gratitude is something I talk about with my own squad of people that I work with. We talk about gratitude, and they'll come in and they'll first kind of journal about the regular gratitude that we all say. I'm thankful for the roof over my head. I'm thankful for my kids. I'm thankful I have a gainful employment, right? And that's good. Be grateful for those things. But I put that roof there. So am I really grateful for it, right? What I help people mold that to, and some of them sometimes they do it themselves just through the different chats that we have. What that has to mold into is today I have gratitude for the fact that I didn't put my fist through the wall when the thermostat wasn't working. Right. And I was able to slow down and get out of my own way and get this taken care of. And because if you don't have that, which you had from the military, which you had from being able to accomplish big things, you knew you could accomplish big things and hard things. Then when the bad happens, you've already got the knowledge and the mindset that, no, I don't know how to deal with this. But yesterday I didn't put my fist through the wall when I normally would. So I've got to get out of my own way. I've got to shut up and get out of my own way and take care of this because I can take care of this. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing as you're talking about, that people will call you, because you have similar background, whether it's similar or not, similar mindset at least, or similar ideas. I call that borrowed credit. I get borrowed credit from people in law enforcement. I get borrowed credit from people in the military and public safety, crime victims, people that have been around. It's, only about half of my clients at a time are public safety or military. I know that because of my past, that attracts a lot of that, but the other are just type A personalities, people that want to hear from a therapist that doesn't look like a regular therapist, right? It doesn't talk like one, because I will tell you, hey, you actually have this pretty good. Let me help you get there. Let me help your mind get there, but you do have this pretty good. So when they come in, I have borrowed credit. I don't know what their fatal wreck was like, but I know what fatal wrecks are like. Mm-hmm. I don't know what their shooting was like, but I know what shootings are like. I don't know what that, injured or dead kid was like, but I know what those are. Mm-hmm. And whether that means I'm knowledgeable about what they're dealing with or not, I think it gains me some of that. But whether I'm knowledgeable about that or not, I think somebody else to talk to that has an idea, or at least speaks the same language, or has had the same thoughts you've had, good and bad, that's the borrowed credit.
Right.
You know, I don't have to know their trauma.
Yeah. I like that. The borrowed credit. Yep.
Yeah. Again, we differentiate this between the traumatic experiences, which are relative, right? And I think you have to respect it. When somebody tells me they're depressed, when somebody tells me they're stressed, I can look at their circumstances and go, man, walk in the park,
Yep.
bro. But that's their reality.
Yeah.
It's
a mindset.
It's just they're not used to dealing with anything serious, so this is their introduction to hell. First week in hell, how'd it go for you? And they're struggling. But I think there's, like you said, in his Mac's situation, what he lived beforehand prepped him for this. But what prepped him for that was what he went through when he, overcame the bullying of his brother and went through his own personal metamorphosis, right? Became, something wholly other. Now, it was in there, right? That person was always in there, but it was expressing itself through his hobbies. He wasn't trying to rock the boat. He wasn't trying to be the Pat Mac we know today. He was just exploring and experimenting and enjoying himself.
Yeah.
That sounded kind of Dr. Freud there for a second.
Yep.
But all of these things, you can, in other words, you can see a path in his life. But not everybody has that path. And so now they're stuck in life. And so they're waiting for the crisis to happen, which is what most of us do, whether it's health, relationships, anything, right? We wait for the crisis, then we call the doctor, then we get the person to come in and help us out. But we can avoid that. My mantra for mental motivation is your best defense is a stronger you.
Yeah.
Because you and I, all three of us combined could not create enough videos or articles or books to address everybody's situation. But the one thing we can say is a stronger version of you can pretty much overcome anything. So at least let's do that. It's like you said, I can help you get there to where. So if you're going to help somebody, if you're going to get them on the track to developing mental strength, how would you guide them?
Well, and I go back to talking about where I knew I had to create something new because I initially wasn't helping people fast enough. It was killing me, but I was bound by the hour that I could sit in that chair with one person.
Right.
So if I worked 100 hours, which I've done, I was still only helping 100 people.
Right.
And there was people still calling, which I'm thankful for. There was people that hear things like this. There's people that have gone on YouTube and seen the talks or heard me give a talk somewhere else live. And they were wanting to work with me, which I'm honored. I'm thankful for.
Right.
I want to work with all of them, but I just couldn't physically do it. So it became a method for me. What originally started out as a way to fix that by trying to use technology morphed into this, what you talked about, the Angry Viking. The Angry Viking Therapist is the name that I got in academia because apparently I look a little different than all the other doctors. So,
Really?
Yeah. And the angry, I came by it honestly, especially at the time. So I created the Angry Viking mindset method because I figured out that there has to be a method, whether it is past, whether you're a Pat Mac and you can figure that out from your past. Even if he didn't know he was figuring it out, you're still figuring it out. You're still moving forward. Right. And some people get stuck. So whether it's you've learned it yourself or you need to get with some kind of coach or therapist and group included to learn this, that's what I wanted to create. So that's what the method became, was community. So everybody's in a community together.
Yeah.
Away from regular social media, because I'm very big on confidentiality. Very big on the community, and then whether they do group calls with me, kind of Q&As with everybody in the same similar format that the tier 1 folks get to do, which is amazing. I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
I've learned from it, absolutely. Do this for a living, still learn from it.
Yeah.
And daily things to learn. Things like, the musts of rational therapy that get us in trouble. The ideas of Stoic philosophy that'll fix this problem. Two things that I'm very big on change my life were Stoic philosophy and rational motive behavior therapy, something that I'm advancedly trained in. So these two things saved my life.
Yeah.
So finding a vehicle for that to help more people is what became the understanding to answer the question of how do you do it? How do you get people's mindset better? they have to learn a new way of thinking. That's it. They have to learn a new way of thinking. Going back to Pat Mack's story, he had to learn a new way of thinking, whether he did it purposefully, knew what he was doing or not. He had to come to the understanding that my mindset I can't stay here in this bullied state. Right. I have to change it. So you have to change it. You have to change your philosophy. You have to change your mindset. Your new life will cost you your old one. You can't stay there. Yeah. So you have to have regular lesson from a book, from a group, from a squad, from a therapist, from something. You're going to have daily lessons of how to change your entire philosophy of how to deal with this. Whether it's the gratitude so that your brain starts to realize what to do in the times of negative, or whether it's, I need to be looking at things with actual rationality, not irrational over emotion.
Right.
The number one thing that people come to me about all breaks down to reacting to over emotion, being over emotional about things, right?
Yep.
Anger, depression, anxiety, guilt, they're all reactions, overreactions to emotion. The same thing, because the same thing that might make somebody sad makes the next person depressed.
Right.
And what that proves to me over the years is it's not the thing. It can't be the thing. If you can go through 20 years of, type 1 missions, and now the mindset you have is this, and you've done well, and somebody else didn't, it's not the missions. Yes, they're a catalyst. They're the thing that happened. But between the stimulus and the response is a space. And in that space is when we decide what it means. Not fake happy, not fake okay with it, not fake neutral. What does this mean? Did the guy pull out in front of me? Do I have evidence that he actually did it on purpose?
Right.
And that he actually did it to piss me off? I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't have evidence of it though, but that's what's pissing me off. It's not him pulling out in front of me. Pulling out in front of me is a frustration. Right. I don't like it either. But the difference between what I can prove, this guy's a terrible driver and now I'm frustrated, get out of my way. Yep, got it. This guy is an a-hole and he did this on purpose to purposefully disrespect me because he doesn't care about me. Anger.
Yep.
Frustration versus anger. And what's the difference? They're both negative, right? We're not trying to get from anger to happy about it. I'm not that guy. Wrong therapist. Wrong therapist. If you want to go from angry to happy about something bad. But there's a big difference between that, because on the anger side, 10 minutes later, I'm still gripping the steering wheel so hard, I think the airbag's going to pop out. My wife's looking at me while I'm sweating. Like, what is wrong with you? That's 10 minutes ago. But I think the world is horrid because some guy pulled out in front of me on purpose, by God. Right? It's mindset. It's not going from he did it on purpose to, oh, well, it's okay. Right. If you can get there, awesome. Do that. Do that. But, even with the not caring, the telescope story, which I love, is it wasn't not caring. You got to not caring by knowing the rationality of the situation. This is a thing.
Yeah, man.
I'm not going to explode over it. This is a thing.
Yep.
Right? And that got you to the emotion of, I'm good. But it was still that middle thing. It wasn't the telescope, and it wasn't you just deciding not to care or not being angry about it. You cared, but not angry about it. It was the middle sentence that said, I can get another one.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on. Moving on. How many people would have lost everything?
Yeah,
Right.
Mac, I've heard you say, now that I'm thinking about it, I've heard you say stuff like that before about issues, whether it's somebody's negative comment online or, how somebody's acting like a douchebag over here, that you said in a very similar way that I'm not going to let that bother me.
Right. In matter of fact, next week's Basic Dude stuff, I had James film me while I was driving because somebody pulled out in front of me. And he goes, because he's learning how to drive. He goes, oh, man, that idiot. I says, it could have been an accident. I doubt it was malicious.
Right.
I really doubt it. Which there's a lot of freaking non-drivers on the road. And most of them are distracted because they're texting and driving, which does, tick me off. But I will not capitulate to road rage. So that's one of the Basic Dude stuffs, is not falling victim to road rage, not being a part of it. Right. Nope, not being a part of it at all. I had another point talking about the not caring thing. So when you talk that, I didn't even know that I was doing this, but proactive therapy, right? That's what you call it, proactive therapy. I started doing that a little bit while I was going through this bad relationship. I did two things. One is, I don't know if this is healthy or not, but at night I would write down everything that's wrong with me that she would tell me. Like you get junk mail for a cruise liner. Well, that means that I'm having an affair with somebody. Obviously, there can only be one explanation,
Right?
You buy a hairbrush for your daughter. That means you're buying it for your girlfriend who you're having an affair with. So I would write all this. Two-hearted ale. Why two-hearted? Why is there two hearts on this ale? One for you, and who's the other heart? Really, no. So I would write this stuff down, and I had pages and pages and pages. One of the things that I was doing is I was falling victim to her. I was being angry also, and I was just blowing gaskets. I gave that up one day by I bought a digital tape recorder. And it was full disclosure. Anytime she would start, I would freaking put it on the table, red light is on. Because I'm not just taping her, I'm taping myself.
Yeah.
So that put me in check. Right. That tape recorder right there made me go, just like that. And I would keep my freaking big fat yapper shut because I'm not recording her, I'm recording me. And I had just files and files and files and files. So when it finally came down to ugly divorce, when my lawyer and her lawyer heard that, her lawyer wanted it. It's so funny. I remember he says, yeah, I knew you were taping your wife. I said, yeah, I'll make you a copy. And I gave it to him during one of our meets. And I said, this will haunt your nightmares, bro. This will haunt your nightmares. But it's the same thing now with I have cameras in my cars. Mm-hmm. I'm not just recording what everybody else is doing. I'm keeping me in check. I'm making sure that, hey, I'm recording myself here too. So it's kind of like that proactive therapy, no, I'm not going to get I'm going to pick and choose when it's time to get angry. There's a time for it, when not angry, but stern, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you have to be sure too. You have to be positive. Was this malicious intent? Was this out of, because somebody wanted to do harm to you? Because a lot of times you just don't know. Mm-hmm. When we had the discussion about what pisses me off is people parking in the handicap parking lot. Yeah. Bro, you better be sure. Because that guy could be half blind or something, or driving his freaking 95-year-old grandma to the store. Right. I mean, you better be sure about this before you blow a gasket and tell him that he shouldn't be parking in that handicap parking spot. You better be sure when that guy cuts you off that it was intentional or unintentional. Right. You got to be sure.
Well, and you asked if it was healthy or not. Here's what you created. Kind of like when you were younger and you were creating the movement out of hobbies and focusing on something else. That's creating that mindset, getting away from being stuck. Here's what I would say the recording created. A couple things. One was having to put yourself in check. Yep. That you didn't blow up too, which is important. But the other thing is what it reminds me of. And granted, the caveat is there are situations that you're not going to get a better outcome of. There are situations in this world, especially when dealing with other people. Doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to get a better outcome of. But there's the golden rule's been around forever, right? Oh, well, if you treat your wife like you want to be treated, then everything will be better. Okay, I think it's a good starting space, right? I don't know that it worked in that situation, but okay, it's a good starting space. How about you treat her, not necessarily, she was clearly dealing with some mental health stuff, but most of the people that come to me that are, my wife is this, and she's angry, and she's lazy, and she loses her cool all the time, and the general things. Don't treat her like you want to be treated. You've already been doing that. Doesn't work. How about you treat her like the person that you know that she can be?
Oh yeah, right.
Because she has two options: be that person or fail miserably. Again, you were likely, it sounds like, dealing with.
But record that too.
Yeah. There was. It went from like 50-50 to moments of clarity to darkness. The curtain's shut.
Which is its own problem. Yep. Like that's totally different.
Because I would have emotional breakdowns when there was moments of clarity, and she would apologize. Mm-hmm. I know I'm freaking horrible. I know I'm a kid. And they'd last for 10, 15, an hour. 10, 15 minutes to an hour. But pretty soon those curtains closed. Boom, black curtains.
Yeah. And there are some situations that you're not going to have a positive outcome. Yep. And that definitely sounds like one. So it's not necessarily related to that, but the recording, it was kind of creating that situation for a lot of people. If how many times a day I hear that, I made a video just the other day called "My Wife is the Problem" because that's what I hear. Well, Doc, I know that I lose my cool a little bit, but my wife, she's really the problem. She's lazy and she doesn't do this, and we're not intimate anymore. And I say a couple things. One, how about you treat her like the person that you know that she can be? Sunday, you said you would give your life for your wife and kids. And now you're complaining about the dishes. Like, I get it. Sometimes the dishes are annoying when you've had a long day at work. But you're saying horrible things about your wife right now, this lady that you said you'd give your life for. That's a mindset thing, right? It all goes back to that. It all goes back to that. And how many people will get to that state, get to the state where they think it's not fixable, blame everything on the other person. Well, I mean, I do have angry reactions, but she's really mean to me, and, in kind of that traditional setting. And but I always hear, well, I mean, I do some things wrong, but she knew who I was when she married me. Bull crap, Casanova, who was opening the door and holding
Fig
in
leaves
your
his
farts.
aprons, man.
Come
Fig
on,
leaves
man.
his aprons.
Come on, same person you were.
Because I've had guys approach me about that because they see where I am now in a relationship, and they know where I was then. And I just ask them a simple question. Can you do better?
Yeah, right.
Because, bro, it's a two-way street, man.
Yeah.
Can you do better? Yeah. And they go, and I'm sure you can. I'm sure that the answer in most cases is yes, whether they want to admit it or not. But.
Yeah, I think we're at a place where, and you both probably see this, Trevor, you especially, where you're just like, man, I'm dealing with people where it's always an emergency. It's always after the fact. It's like dealing with a bunch of people who've never lifted a weight or been to a gym or done any kind of physical exercise, and they're constantly suffering physical, crises. And that's where I always feel like we're at, is if I could just get people to take their minds seriously to begin with. I don't care if everything's great in your life, because there's no guarantee tomorrow's going to be like yesterday, right? Trauma can come in all shapes and sizes to anyone at any time. But people, for the most part, unless they're a part of a religious community where these sorts of things are taught or whatever, there's not this being proactive about their own mental health. Because you say the words mental health and they automatically think, well, then you're saying I got something wrong with me. Right. No, we're just like taking care of your physical health. Are you proactive about your physical health? Are you proactive about the health of your mind? And they don't, the average person doesn't control their thoughts. I mean, from this morning, and I get weird with this stuff, but from early this morning, when walking my dog to even driving down here, I didn't even listen to music the whole way here. The whole time I forced my mind to have an incessant conversation. And a lot of it was repetitive. A lot of it was mantra-like, and a lot of these are phrases and things that I've cultivated over the years. You know what I mean? And they're handy because sometimes your mind is so jumbled, you can't stop it. And so you just need something simple to repeat to stop the thing, And so because people aren't watching, you're not noticing the escalation that's going on. One of the things that's been helpful since I got the dog is how much mind training works the same as dog training.
Right.
Pull that chain, pull that chain, pull that chain. Yep. Once it starts to veer off, you don't wait till it goes smells the flower.
Right.
But once it starts to veer off, and just that very simple thing to me, once you start to do that, then, it's like if you did strength training or functional type training like Mac does, which includes all of it, how many potential physical disasters are you eliminating that you'll never know?
Right. Yep. Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Helping your buddy move a couch, you would have been hurt. Or walking up the stairs if you're Joe Biden, right? Yeah. You fell. And if he'd have been doing his squat thrusts, he wouldn't have fell up the damn stairs. But how much, again, you don't realize all the things that
you have no idea. You have no idea. I go to a chiropractor once a month just to get a crack-a-lacking,
Yeah.
just to get straightened out. And it takes me like 10 seconds. He goes, man, you're the easiest. He says, most of my patients it's all crisis management.
Right. Yep.
And I tell him, and I said, man, if you lose that, 40-pound beach ball in front of you, you're going to feel a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, I'm not 40 pounds. It's going to be 45-pound beach ball here pretty soon, bro.
He's proud of it. Yeah. I mean, even if you're not in any sort of traumatic situation, you can, and it's not just avoiding trauma. We're not just talking about, hey, work on your mind so that you can avoid bad things. There's good things that come of a disciplined mind. And so that gets into what you were mentioning earlier about stoicism, where you are unmoved by the fiery trial. That's a powerful, powerful place. Jesus said it this way. He says, the prince of this world cometh, but he hath nothing in me.
Yep.
Wow. In other words, there's no handles that he can just grab that he knows I'm going to react the same way over the same damn stimuli,
You can't avoid the trauma. You cannot avoid the stimuli. Whether you sign up for the military and it comes with the package, whether you're in law enforcement, you're going to see it, whether you're driving down the road and see something, right? You're not going to avoid the trauma. And I think a lot of us in the kind of the trauma psychology world spend a lot of years trying to figure out what triggers people, what becomes the trauma. And we do know some about brain science. We do know some things about REM sleep, about EMDR, which is a type of trauma therapy. We do know a lot more about the brain when it comes to trauma and what happens and what doesn't happen. But we quit trying to figure out what was going to be your trauma. Because say you're a law enforcement officer and I call and say, hey man, don't go to work tomorrow. Tomorrow's the day where you see something so horrible, it's going to change your life forever. Two things are going to happen. One, you're going to hang up because you think I'm crazy. And two, you're going to go anyway because that's what you do. You just go anyway, right?
Yep.
You knew going into combat, bad things were going to happen. Friends were going to be lost. Somebody could have said, tomorrow's the day where you lose somebody. You'd have gone anyway.
Yep.
Not forsaking them, not putting them unnecessarily in danger. You'd have gone anyway. Why? Because it's what we do. It's what we do. So you can't avoid the trauma. You can't avoid the triggering reminders of the trauma. You can't. You got to know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Triggers are triggers. That word trigger gets so overused today, much like most things in mental health. It gets so overused. I'm triggered. If you know you're triggered, you're not triggered. You ain't triggered. Like, you could have stopped it.
Right.
If you know how many times I hear a day like, well, I know if I go into that location, I'll be triggered. Well, if you go to that location, you may respond to that trigger.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get triggered or not.
Right.
And if you know, is it really a trigger? Right.
Right.
And that becomes where you have to learn the proactive mindset part. That's why I didn't even call that group therapy. I called it, a mindset method. You have to change your mindset. You have to change your philosophy. And if you don't change it first, then what comes at you next is 10 times overreactive.
Yeah.
You can't avoid it. You cannot avoid it.
And there's, people try to untangle a traumatic problem, which is very difficult to do. I mean, you're navel gazing, in essence. You're picking lint out of your navel. There's no way you're going to figure out what's going on inside. You're looking for a black spot on a black cat in a dark room. You're just not going to find it. So we have to turn that energy elsewhere. Again, this goes back to the dog training. If I was to give anybody advice right now, I'd say, get a dog, train it, and work out. You know what I mean? Because you need to see an example of an unruly creature who's totally in the moment. You could have an encounter with that dog, have to spank that dog or whatever, and moments later, it's licking you.
Yep.
Moments later.
And you can't avoid the emergency, right? My wife and my two daughters, I got two young daughters at home. They wanted a new puppy. I do not want a new puppy. So we have a new puppy, right? So we take it camping for the first time. Yeah. I know. I'm old enough now and been married long enough now. I know how it works. But we go camping, he takes off. And I spend an hour chasing this stinking thing all over the campsite. And I am not in a good place when I find him. And would never cause him harm. But I'm definitely not being nice on the way back.
But he comes back with 3 legs.
He may have started that way. You never know. But I'm not in a good place. But after I calm down from not being in a good place, because I don't have it all figured out. I still have to watch myself. That's why it's a method.
Yep.
Because I'm still learning it every day. once I calmed down, I had to realize, well, of course he didn't stop and sit down when you were screaming at him too. A, you scared him, big tough Viking dude. Right. But B, you never really taught him to do that in crazy situations. Right. It was really cool as I sat on my magic chair, flipping through the satellite TV, giving him treats to sit down. But when there was stimulus, he couldn't avoid.
No. He'd rather have that than this treat.
So we'll train the dog. We'll train our bodies. We won't train our mind. We blow it out of the water.
Dude, to me, it's the number one thing. I tell people this. I've been telling them this for years and years that I've been doing this crap online. It's the number one thing. Mental mastery is the number one. Everything else is downhill. If you could control your thought life, you can control everything else. If your self-talk is in line, and if it's metal, you can pretty much conquer anything because you got control of your thoughts and you got a soundtrack. You know what I mean?
Who doesn't want a soundtrack?
Who doesn't want a soundtrack? But we could go obviously deep, and we're not going to take a whole lot of time today because of the situation that we're in here at the meetup. But I wanted people to, get this concept of being proactive. So a proactive thing that they can do, obviously, is to connect with you. And like I said, you have your own squad, you got your own group doing your thing, and you've got such great content. You just did a great messages off the cuff, no notes today. And so let's get people connected with you.
Yeah. Well, and I do it off the cuff because I say the same things all the time because I really mean it.
Yeah.
I teach what saved my life. This saved my life. Period. There was nothing else. Changing my mindset, learning how to deal with the past, learning how to deal with the present, learning how to deal with what's coming up. 100% saved my life. I would not be here if it weren't for changing my mindset. So that's why I can do it off the cuff. And I love doing talks like this because just the other day, we do group Zoom, group chats, Q&As, which are just, it's the absolute best thing. Best thing in my squad is the Q&As because I gain something out of it. I look forward to them every week. Every week we do them twice a week. And I gain stuff out of them asking questions and me going, well, here's what I think. Oh, that's really good. I need to remember that for myself, right? I look forward to it every week. And it's somebody had been in that and then later had messaged me directly, asked a question, because you can in that squad, and asked a question, and I said something. He said, "Yeah, I wrote that down yesterday too in the chat." I'm like, I'm consistent if nothing. Right. This stuff saved my life. Period. All the things that many of us have memorized through. Many of your two rhetoric. And I've learned a lot from both of you. It's repetitive because we believe in it. It's not repetitive because it's cool. So getting in touch with me is actually not very hard. I make it pretty easy in lots of different ways. The absolute best way to do so is to go to theangryvikingtherapist.com. Right. So pretty easy to remember.
So
theangryvikingtherapist.com, or if you want to type shorter, it's AVT, the letters Angry Viking Therapist, AVT.help. AVT.help. I like shorter ones. Right. Shorter
descriptives.
Descriptives, yeah. So less things to type in, right? So AVT.help, you throw your information in there. There's tons of information about what the squad is, first of all, because I'm not here to sell anything. I'm
How dare you use the squad?
I know. They're absolutely passionately
now they're going to be confused.
Driven to help. I can't see people in the same place that I was and not help push them forward in whatever that takes. So there's tons of information on there. There's videos on there that links to my YouTube where I put out,
the YouTube's cool.
I appreciate that. It's that's a I'm sure, as you saw, rapidly learning process with even with you,
right?
Who seems so savvy on cameras now, and here I was,
now after you saw that,
right. Yeah,
made for TV now.
Yeah. Now I've got to go a different route, man, if I'm going to follow the squad. But, there's that. Please, if you don't want to go there and look around and put your information in, the cool thing about that website is you can make an appointment to speak with me right now. You can go there right now, make an appointment to speak with me. It won't cost you a dime. It may be 10 or 15 minutes. Let's figure out what's going on in your life. Let's figure out what needs to change. and I'll let you know if I can be helpful.
Right.
I'm not here to sell you anything. If I'm not going to be able to help, which is rare, of the people that we attract, I'll tell you who will.
Right.
I'll point you in the right direction. I'll send you a book. I'll point you to a book. I'll point you to a PDF. I'll send you a PDF. We'll get you in the right direction. But I want to have a conversation with you to find out where you're at and what would look better.
Right.
If you'd just like to hang out with what I have to say for a while, the YouTube is the Angry Viking Therapist. And Instagram is at Dr. Trevor Wilkins, one word, a doctor short, DR. DR Trevor Wilkins, Dr. Trevor Wilkins. Stuff's constantly going up on there because that lets me pass on information in short bits, which is my attention span.
Right. So. I think that's everybody's nowadays, man.
Oh, yeah.
Doc, thank you so much for not only joining us on the podcast, but for speaking and hanging out with us and being such a huge asset to the squad itself.
Thank you.
Yeah, most appreciated, bro.
Yeah, we've enjoyed having you. I know all of the squad members. Again, you're the one that everybody requests to be on the podcast. So we're glad we got to do this while you were here in town with us. And for, again, those of you who don't know, we are sponsored by Taconic Distillery, InvaderCoffee.com, and KillCliff.com. You can follow Pat Mack at what?
T-Max Inc.
T-Max Inc. You can follow me at Metal Motivator and navigate your way to everything else. But we've also dissipated our crowd so it's not as loud in here. Now you get the echo. But awesome time and good to see our buddies here and big things happening this weekend. When are you heading back?
Sunday. I'm going to stick around a few days.
Okay, cool. Very good.
Yep.
All right. Mac, anything else?
Negatron.
All right. Remember, whatever you do, Mac,
Don't suck.
Metzel.